The purpose of this video is to assist in the approval of our admin Trex workflows application and get that application verified. And so I'll walk through the OAuth experience that Okta customers will see, and then explain how the scopes will be used by walking through some workflows that use those scopes. Okay, so the first thing the user would do in order to use the Okta Workflows product would be to create a connection. First you need to add a card, and see it's a Google Workspace connector. And they'll come in here and they'll select one of these cards, and this is a full list of the cards that are available for this connector. Scroll all the way down. So let's pick a read user card, and then we're going to click on create a new connection, and then we're going to select a domain here, G Suite or Google Workspace domain. We're going to go and we're going to say create a connection, and we'll expand that so that you can see the OAuth client ID. We're going to have to go very wide and then scroll to the end here for you to be able to see that. And there's our redirect URL. And there's our client ID, which should match what's in our client ID for the Trex application. And it does. And then the next step, the user will select an account. And it will say that the app is not verified because it isn't. And if they want to, then they can proceed. And then it's going to ask for the following scopes. And they click allow. And now they have a solid connection, and they can use this in a workflow. And so now I just want to walk through each of the scopes, particularly the sensitive scopes. So we're only requesting sensitive scopes here, no restricted scopes, and no non-sensitive scopes. So first of all, we're going to request the scope for directory users. And so this workflow here demonstrates that we are using a create user card, and then we're doing a read user and a delete user. So typically what would happen here, this flow would be run on a scheduled basis, or in this case we'll just execute it right now and hit test. It will go and create a random user in our test domain, and then it will read the user, do some checks, and then it will go and delete the user by the user's ID, and then some negative test cases. So that demonstrates using the admin.directory.user scope. Next, let's move on to the admin directory group scope. And rather than running this one, I'll just show you something from our execution history. It's already been run. In this case, there's a new group that gets created. And then we read the group, and then we delete the group. So very similar to user, except this one is applying to groups. So that demonstrates the admin.directory.group scope. Next one is the admin.directory.user.security scope. And we're using this one for to read and delete application-specific passwords. And once again, I've already run this one. So in this case, we're creating a user, we're reading that user's application-specific passwords, we're deleting the user, And now we're picking a different user that already has some ASPs that have been assigned or created by that user, and we're just reading those in. So there is a list of those in a workflow, and then we're doing some checks on those. So that demonstrates the admin.directory .user.security scope. Next, we're going to do the admin.directory.org unit scope, and in that case, we're reading all of the organizational units in this account, and that's really all there is to that one. And then finally, we're using the apps.licensing scope, and we're going to read and assign unassigned licenses. So here's a flow that gets all of the licenses that are available, and then unassigns the licenses from a particular user. And here's a card that, here's a card that creates a user, and then here's another one that assigns licenses to a user and follows up by reading and unassigning. So that demonstrates how we're using all the scopes, and I hope this makes it clear how our application works and how we're using the scopes, as well as how we enable the user to create an OAuth connection to their account. Thank you for listening.